Tools from Harbor Freight can be quite controversial. Sometimes they can fit the bill and be exactly what you need to get the job done, and other times they can fall short and just be a waste of time. So today, I'm gonna go through our tools that every RV owner should have. Some of them are Harbor Freight, and then sometimes it's just not worth it. So let's not waste any time, let's get right into it. So this first one I think is really important. I don't think all RVers have it. I'm not gonna go through every tool, but this one I think every RVer should have, and it is a torque wrench. The one I found at Harbor Freight was 22 bucks, and I did have this one before, but I did end up breaking it, but that was because I misused it. But I think every RVer should have this because there are so many things that give a torque spec when you're tightening something down, and you should have this to know what you're at. Even for the simple fact of when you have the tires changed or even rotated on your RV, and they say after you have them put on, after 100 miles, you should check torque on those lug nuts. How are you gonna do that unless you have one of these? Are you gonna take it back to the tire shop? I don't think anybody is gonna do that. But having this on hand for 22 bucks, you can make sure that you have the proper torque on your wheels on your RV. I know you're not supposed to use these as a breaker bar. That's how I broke the one previously. I was in a pinch, had to get something off. This was the only tool that I had on hand, so I sacrificed it, so just don't do that. Now, that's why number 2 is on the list, and it's a breaker bar. This one's actually a Craftsman one that I've had for a very long time. But Harbor Freight has one that's around 17 to 18 bucks. The reason why I think every RVer should have this is because sometimes you just need more leverage. And it comes in really handy when changing a tire. I find this way more useful than a 4-way. Yes, a 4-way, you have a few different sizes, which can be helpful, but really just a few sockets, and I'm at the same spot with this than I am with this. And I find that I get better leverage out of this than I do out of this. And the 4-way just doesn't store as well. I know they have a collapsible one, but I still don't get as much leverage as this. So why carry this when this can do a better job and more jobs? Next on the list are Wago connectors. These aren't actually Wago connectors, and they're considerably cheaper, but they are UL listed. So I picked this up for 10 bucks and you get 25 of them. So that puts them at 40 cents a piece. If you do the Wago ones on Amazon, you're gonna pay 20 bucks for a few more, and that's putting it around 71 cents a connector. These come in really handy when you need to make some kind of electrical splice, you're adding something on in the 12-volt section. They're so simple to do to be able to just open a lever, put the wire in, and clamp that lever down. Compact case, easy to store, easy to use. I got no problem with this. Next up is something that is sold at Harbor Freight, but I didn't pick it up there. It's actually the sponsor of this video, which is Jackery. The name is synonymous with solar power stations. I had a friend that I gave something like this to, and he said he used it way more than he ever thought that he would. And he was gonna upgrade to something that was more capable like this. This is the Jackery 1000 Plus, which it can do more than you might think because it's actually rated at 2000 watts out continuous. So you can run things like a tea kettle, a coffee pot, Starlink, or for even very practical things like a backup source of power for your fridge in a power outage. I love things that are multi-use like this. So while most of the time you might be using it for camping or outdoor things, it becomes a backup for power outages. With everything that's been going on, you can see the importance of having a backup supply for power. Perfect for keeping the fridge running, radios and phones charged up for communication. We really have become dependent on power for so much. So a few things that stand out to me on this unit. First, the ratio of power and output to portability. What I mean is you get something too big, you don't want to bother with it, or if it's too small that it can't handle the things you wished it could, and you're probably just not going to use it. This one kind of hits that sweet spot of large output, but it's easy to grab at only 32 pounds. The solar panels are bifacial, and they're some of the easiest portable solar panels I've had to set up. The magnets hold it closed, but just opening it up and pulling the back supports out until you have the right angle. And these have a neat feature where it gives you a target with the sun to optimize the angle to get the most out of the sun. Something like this is ideal for RVers that don't want to spend a ton of money on a big solar setup, but want power during quiet times at national parks. So you can make your coffee, you can watch TV with just using this unit without ever having to fire up a generator. In a nutshell, it's simple, easy, and almost the same price as the capacity of a Battle-Born battery with all the function and solar that comes with a Jackery. The sales they've been having, it's a tough one to pass up if you're looking for something like this. So links are going to be down in the description to this. Definitely check it out if you're looking for a power solution that's so mobile and still so capable. Jackery has stepped it up with this unit. Definitely worth checking out. These are very helpful to have on hand. Let's move to the next one. Next on the list is a digital tire pressure gauge. This one's coming in at $17.49 at Harbor Freight. You can actually find this cheaper on Amazon, significantly cheaper, and we don't even actually have a digital one. I know a lot of people love the digital, but we just have the old analog. I guess it's not really analog, but you get the picture. It's the old non-digital style. As long as you have one that goes up to the rating of what you're putting your tires at for pressure, that's kind of the important part. Next on the list is a tape measure. You can get one for $5 normally. This one was on sale for $2. How do you go wrong with a $2 tape measure? My argument for this is there is nothing smaller and more compact that you can have readily on hand to be able to measure for your awning or measure for your slide outs. There's nothing easier to have just in the door of your truck to be able to measure all those things when you pull into a site. It's the one tape measure that I'll mark up with the measurements for the RV. It just makes it's so easy. $2. I have no problem using a Harbor Freight tape measure for that. Next up is a multimeter, and I don't use the one from Harbor Freight, but let me give you the argument of why you would if you don't have one. Starting off with, it's only $7, and sometimes I think I've even seen them for free with a coupon. Number two, if you're somewhat intimidated by them and you don't really know how to use them, I would still have one on hand. Because you call customer service or tech support on things, they're gonna ask, do you have a multimeter and can you check a few things? So if you know how to check voltage for DC, voltage for AC, and continuity, that's gonna get you really far on being able to diagnose a lot of things. So why not have a $7 one and keep it in the RV so you always have it? I keep two, one in the truck, one in the RV, one is a Southwire. It's a clamp meter. It does a whole lot more than that. And then I have one by Unity because it does a really good job of capturing the surge. But if I didn't have one, I would highly recommend just picking one up to have in the RV. But next is one that I do have, and it's the $5 Allen wrenches. You get the metric and the standard set of Allen wrenches for $5. Might be one of those kind of situations where you have tools at the house, but you don't want to have to pack your tools every time you're going on a trip. Having $5 Allen wrenches inside the RV all the time, you don't have to worry about, do I have the tool or don't I? Now let's go into a little bit of a speed round and cover a bunch of these. The 11-in-1 screwdriver gives you the Phillips, the square bit, and nut drivers that are used so much on an RV. Sockets, you can get a water heater plug socket there. You can get an entire set for $20 when it would cost you like $10 to get an individual socket online. Why not get the whole set? Also, you can get socket adapters for $5. They were on sale for $3. These come in so handy. Not quite as handy as the impact socket adapters for $5. So when I was there, they were on sale for $2 and you get all three sizes. These can really speed up jobs when you need to. Their cheapest socket holders, I would say, are absolutely junk. They're extremely cheap, but they are cheap. Their non-contact voltage tester, for me, isn't really worth it because it doesn't really fit the range of the voltage that would work for testing for hot skin on your RV. Much rather get the $20 one on Amazon from Southwire. That would be a much better option. I gotta tell you, Harbor Freight sometimes surprises me in different ways. Sometimes it surprises me how long those tools last, and then other times it surprises me just how cheap like those socket holders are that it's just not even worth it. But if you want to see everything that we kind of store inside the truck and everything we store inside the RV, we have walkthroughs of all of that equipment. And a video on the highest rated gear from Harbor Freight. And I'm gonna put links down in the description to all the different tools that we talked about in here, the Amazon links and the links to Harbor Freight if you were interested in any of those tools. But I think that's gonna do it for today. Hope this information helped you out in some ways, seeing some of the tools that we carry on hand, some that we're willing to get from Harbor Freight and some that we're not. So as always, if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will. See you next video. Take care.